Hi and welcome back to More Than a Lumpy Jumper bonus shorts. This week we are talking about curiosity, a topic that we both love. We have gifts in the form of book recommendations, quizzes and some ideas to spark your curiosity bug. Come and have a listen to Constantly Curious. Hi and welcome back to More Than a Lumpy Jumper with Bobby and Bridge, with yet another little gift for the Christmas season. This week, we are talking about being constantly curious. I chose the topic because it alliterated, and also, obviously, because curiosity is just so key to all things leadership. So many of the elements of good leadership require curiosity. And during this break and this holiday season, I really feel that there's a little bit of space to take some time or to start new things. But there's also a lot of pressure, and I like the idea of, rather than just settling in front of Netflix with a big tub of Quality Street, albeit that is another option that's always open to you, is to take some time when you're possibly surrounded by more people to be a little curious and enjoy the space you have with people that maybe you don't spend as much time with normally. Bobby, how about you? Are you curious during Christmas?
I hope so. I think that we talked the other week about commitments. Maybe one of my commitments for during this piece of the year is to not keep rushing around, demanding answers, but asking questions, I think, is the way that I'm going to think about it. And I think that there will be space, whatever it might be, to think about things differently rather than just doing what we've always done. I suppose I'm sitting here thinking while I'm trying to speak at the same time, which is always flipping dangerous. But I wonder if it is a period of time that often precludes curiosity if you are somebody who's a bit steeped in tradition.
Yeah.
This is how we've always done it. This is what happens on Christmas Eve. This is what we do at the end of the year. These are the people come around. This is the food we have. All of those sort of things. I'm just sitting here thinking, and this is very much reflective of myself, that I know leading up to Christmas, I was a bit like, I've got to have time to do all of this to make the Christmas pudding. And of course, it's Ash saying, why? The brilliant curiosity question of why. And I think with some of the tradition or whatever it might be, I need to be in the why mode, because of course this year as well, there will be a toddler involved in, and so there's the capacity, if you give yourself the space to it, to have for new traditions to be created. So I think that's where I'm at with it at the moment.
Yeah, I think that the why question, and you'll get lots of those with a toddler, won't you?
Yes.
Is really interesting, because often a lot of our traditions are self-soothing, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I think is like, why do you have to make a Christmas pudding? Because it makes me feel happy. It makes me feel content. It makes me feel grounded. It makes me feel ready for the onslaught of the mayhem that is going to descend on the house. But I do take the point that it's also an opportunity to, especially if there's an extended family or if you're doing a friend's Christmas, to embrace lots of sort of new things. I remember a time many years ago when I was living in a suburb of London, and myself and the guy I was with at the time, we were spending Christmas together, not with our families, can't remember why, but also our neighbours were Canadian and they also were away from home, and so we decided we would meld our Christmas together. And it was the first time I'd ever had North American traditional food, and so I was exposed to candied yams for the first time, which are delicious, albeit probably not particularly good for your health. And smoked oysters, never had those before. So it was a real opportunity to sort of experience some slightly different things. Interestingly, at the end of our dinner, we had a knock on the door and there were two Mounties. I kid you not. I was so happy. It was like, my
hello.
Christmas present arrived. Two Mounties. I don't think they were wearing all their red outfits, and there was no horse outside, which was a little disappointing. Who, because this couple were traveling and hadn't been in touch regularly enough with their parents, who'd contacted the police who had then contacted the embassy in London and sent the Mounties to look for them.
Oh my God. I love that.
It was the weirdest Christmas, one of the weirdest Christmases I've ever had. But it was brilliant because I got the Mounties and I got to say to them, where's your horse? Why aren't you wearing the stuff? Can you go back and get changed, please? And they were completely confused. They were like, can we just speak to the name of the people? And she was mortified. It was the woman's mother, and she was just dying that her mum had caused this kerfuffle because she hadn't been answering her phone. So there you go to everyone out there. If you are younger and travelling, don't lose contact with your parents, otherwise they will send...
Please contact your parents.
Otherwise you'll be horribly embarrassed in front of your friends. I mean, she was like in her 30s. Anyway, I'll move on to my first gift, which is, it came from a thought that I had and a regret in a way. I know that you don't do regrets, but I do. My great uncle, he was in the army and served in Burma, was a prisoner of war, I think, but he never talked about it. And when he died, and it was a few years after he died, he was so proud when I joined the army and used to sort of joke about, used to call me general, and he was a very old man at that point. It was really lovely. I realised I'd never sat down and talked to him about, and I know many people don't want to talk about their experiences, but I'd never even asked about what it had been like before the war, or all of the things that there were times where I'd suddenly go, God, I wish I'd asked him that. I wish I'd found out a little bit more about him as a young man. And I think that this is when you've got multi-generational or new people, opportunities with people that you don't see very often, that sort of curiosity and questioning is really important. But I know also it's kind of, sometimes it's tough to, start conversations or to know what to ask, and you can be a little bit stuck. So I found this book, and it's not really about asking relatives questions, but it's called The Book of Beautiful Questions: The Powerful Questions That Will Help You Decide, Create, Connect, and Lead, by Warren Berger. Mum, if you're listening, I want this book for Christmas, please. That's my Christmas list. I think it sounds amazing. He's a journalist and he calls himself an expert questionologist, which I think is cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And he then shares stories and research on the power of inquiry and about why curiosity is so important in decision-making, creativity, leadership, and relationships. I'm going to be sharing it with my WhatsApp group for my creativity and leadership diploma as well. So my gift to everyone.
That's really spooky. I'm actually going to offer an additional one in that I didn't know that I was, and I need to go and find the link for this. But I saw online the other day that basically you can buy this pack where a member of your family will be sent an email every week for them to complete with a story it triggers for them. And that happens over a whole year, and then they get compiled into a book. So it's a way of capturing things in a family, which I thought was so lovely. I think it's part and parcel of the same thing that you're actually saying, so that those things don't get lost.
Yeah.
Excellent. So one of mine that I found, it's sort of like rather fits in with your theme of trying, but before the Mounties arrived, of trying different food and different traditions for what have you. So I came across the Britannica Curiosity Compass. And it's a website, and the first thing that I came across was that 10 ways to improve your curiosity. So I won't go into them, but it basically gives you ideas about, a bit like you're saying, about asking questions, listening, etc. They're quite basic, but it sort of like gives you the forerunner. But the other thing that I liked was that there was then a little quiz to do to find out your curiosity type. And so mine was the explorer. Somebody who loves culture, places, ways of life, people. I was quite relieved about that, considering the jobs I've had in the past, but not just in the now, but through history. So those linkages as to how things have evolved as a result of history, in particular in people. And if I think about my work as coach, that seems to marry up. Challenging themselves to find new things and appreciating others who guide and are willing to guide others. And one of the quotes it said in it was, embrace your detours, which I loved. So as an explorer, but there's different archetypes of the type of curiosity that you are. So it was just a really practical thing. But again, just getting you sort of like into what does your curiosity look like, how you can improve it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Curious about curiosity, that very meta, and I can't wait. I'm going to get on and do that little quiz as well, and maybe we can do that at our Culture Vulvas and Dinner Dildos dinner this evening.
We can indeed. My God, why do you keep getting that in? People are going to start asking questions about what the hell that is.
Well, they'll just have to wait and see, won't they?
We'll have to have them all on an episode at the same time. Can you imagine what the hell that would be like? God.
Mayhem. Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, and then my next one, and this may sound a little weird, but I've got a link to some activities to encourage curiosity in kids and toddlers. But when I looked at it, I then thought, actually, sod that. I don't have kids, and so I'm always for stealing candy out of the mouth of babes, maybe not the mouth, the hands of babes, because I think that there's so much that we create for kids and toddlers that's actually just as enjoyable for adults.
Absolutely.
So take it as you wish. Use it for your kids and toddlers, but don't forget that sometimes it's really cool for adults. As we've already talked about, adults, we don't get to play as much as maybe we ought to, and we forget that we all really, really like to play. So the ideas that came up were making a cabinet of curiosities, and I think this is a really good one for intergenerational chats. You know, when kids collect their treasures and you have a space where they're all put, and then you can have conversations about them. Grandpa, grandma, great aunt, uncle can bring something as well, and you can have conversations about that, you know, it jogs things. Having
Love
a theme week or a day, you know, about a particular thing, and obviously you could do that at work. Model it. I love this. Making things out of stuff. So you can make a challenge
We've
about...
been there.
Yeah, making things out of toilet rolls, yogurt pots, whatever, repurposing things, or something like putting a trivia scavenger hunt. So a treasure hunt, we all love those. Adults love them too, and you can scale them up to work, but also things that might, again, involve the family. So you have to find out what colour was grandma's school uniform, or where was your auntie born, so that, again, it brings that kind of ability to start to have conversations between the generations.
So my final one, I came across this TED talk yesterday. I listened to it start to finish. Honestly, I've listened to it twice because he really drew me in. He's a guy called Drew Lynch, and he did a TED talk on why curiosity gets you farther than ambition. And he's a stand-up comic with quite a significant stutter.
Wow.
And basically, I'm not going to tell the whole TED talk, but basically he started life with a very significant ambition about what he was going to do with his life and be an actor, etc., etc. And then he hit his head and literally woke up the following day with a stutter. And so what he is talking about is that embracing your detour requires, when you can't just have drive and your goals and your destination, because there may well be one or two detours. And if you are so dead set, it's back to the control thing. If you are so dead set on your drive and you're just one ultimate destination, you won't really enjoy the journey or the adventure, embracing your detours. And so he tells his story as a result of what his detours have done to have him be the person that he now is. That was around why curiosity gets you further than ambition. It's glorious and will really put curiosity on your map if it isn't already.
Super. Really cool. And courageous as well, I guess, because I bet that took a heck of a lot of courage. Yeah, to acknowledge and then step forward, because I think many people find public speaking hard enough without also having to deal with a stutter.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think the other thing that I loved from it, his dynamic stories are very much about what's happening right now. And I just minded to finish with that, with the fact that you've managed to throw in a story about smoked oysters and Mounties, because that was the thing that jumped out at you in the moment while we were talking. But I think that that's the pure joy of being curious about what's going to be said next.
Yes. Wonderful rounding off of this little gift episode. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
See you soon.
Thank you so much for listening. As usual, the links to all the resources are on the More Than a Lumpy Jumper website and the podcast site on Spotify. We'd be curious as to how you like them, so let us know in the polls or comments on LinkedIn or Instagram. Next week is the final bonus before we start a new season in the new year, so come and join us in Coping with Overwhelm.